Hey, good to be with you. Joe Davidson here for The Buzz. We try to bring you information, news, notes, video, photos, insight, little fun flavor every week when we do this show. High school football always seems to be here. And this week, it's February, the heart of basketball season, soccer, wrestling. But letter of intent was yesterday. We're going to break that down. I'm going to have my partner, Cameron Salerno, join me in a little bit. We'll talk about that. And there are always football coaches coming and going. So we're going to start off today's show, which will include girls basketball rankings, boys basketball rankings, the area's leading block shot specialists, and break down all that. But first, let's talk a little bit of football. And we have some coaches who are coming and going, and big name coaches. These are good hires. There's Terry Stark, who does not look familiar in Foothill colors. He's been a longtime coach at Intercom, 225 total game winner. He also coached at Natomas and at Miraloma. Here he is in his element with Intercom. Just a lot of good teams. A lot of kids went on to scholarship. Runs the wing T, which is a deception-based offense. You don't see many teams run that anymore. He was a Miraloma quarterback in the late 1970s. That's where he learned that. So kudos to Terry Stark. He took this job at Foothill a couple of years ago. The athletic director position with the district did not materialize, and then pandemic, and now he's back. I know the Foothill people are excited to have him. And Foothill is a sleeping giant. It's a program that's got athletes. It's got some tradition. It just has not had some good footing in recent years, but Terry Stark will get them going right away. Just a tremendous coach. Another coach of note who is back in the saddle there, Steve Smite. We're glad he's back because he gives us expressions like that. He's animated. He's spirited. His pregame discussion with his team is always must-see theater. He gets big results. He won a league championship in 2019 with the Davis Blue Devils. He's coached in college. There he is with Terry Stark there. So two good guys back in the business. He took this past season off. He was an offensive coordinator for a small new college program in Oakland in the Bay Area. The commute drove him nuts. So he's back, and he brought up a good point when I was talking to him. I said, why would you come back when staying away is good for your health? And he goes, it just gets into you. It's hard to stay away. So kudos to those guys. And we got one more, Joe McCrae. Here he is when he was with the Sacramento Dragons. He just got hired at Franklin High School in Elk Grove Unified. He was an assistant coach at Natomas. Joe's going to do some good things at Franklin. Huge enrollment, great school tradition there. Evan Boylan was just there. Before him, it was Mike Johnson for a long time. And so that's we got some good coaches back in the mix, and it's good for kids. It's good for football. So good to see. All right. I'm going to talk to Cameron about this when we get him in a moment, but we're going to talk football letter of intent. There was a December early signing period, and then there was yesterday's signing period. And it's a big deal because only 1% to 2% of high school kids sign full athletic scholarships. That's why these guys have big signing parties. So that's why it matters. There's Bobby Pylan, 4-time All-Metro lineman. It's never happened before. So kudos to him, a real anchor. He's going to Air Force, which means his long hair will go. We'll talk to Cameron Salerno about that in a little bit. Nathan Kent also signed yesterday. There he is. He's a receiver, runs track. He's going to go to Navy. So he's a 4.0 student, much like Bobby Pylan. And then we have some more scholarship names. There's Anthony Garcia. I attended his signing yesterday out of Capital Christian. Signs with San Jose State some 35 years after his dad and his coach and his role model and his mentor, Aaron Garcia, signed with Washington State, later playing at Sacramento State. And the father says that the son is better. Cameron Sampson there with the ball, a cover corner, an athlete, plays on special teams out of Capital Christian. He signed with Nevada. It's a nice get for the Wolfpack. He thanked his grandmother and his mother, and because it takes a village. There's Brad Bauer, the one doing the lifting there, 6'6", 4.5 GPA out of Rockland in the trenches. He's going to Rice University, which means he has to be a stellar scholar because it's a hard school to get into, and that's where he's headed. And let's take a peek at Siano Noah of Grant. He's the one on the ground making a sack. He's going to Fresno State. They had a nice signing at Grant High School in Del Paso Heights yesterday in the gym. Faculty, family members, people of the community. It means a lot to Grant to see their kids move on. They've had an army. And Garrett McGriff of Jesuit did a little bit of everything. The Delta League Player of the Year. He's going to Army, I believe. And so he is going to Army, and he's, so the military academy signed some pretty good players, and I'll talk to Cameron Salerno here in a moment about that. But they don't just play football or the opportunity to play football for the military academies. There's going to be a further commitment. So we have more guys. We have a story on sacb.com today. Check our Twitter or Facebook. It's got our full chart. It's also got the list of who Sacramento State signed, who UC Davis signed. And I was asked yesterday by a couple of people, was this an up year for high school kids signing, a down year? Well, we've had some years we've had 30 to 35 kids sign, FBS, FCS, so it's Sacramento State, UC Davis, Cal Poly level, all the way up to Alabama, USC, Cal, that level. And this year I think we had about 18. It's not a bad year. It just shows how hard it is to get scholarships, especially with the NC2A transfer portal, which is just flooded with people, and a lot of those kids don't land. So that's there's some of those elements. It's hard to get these scholarships. These kids appreciate it. Anthony Garcia, the quarterback at Capital Christian, said, "Hey, I had hard decisions to make and which school I was going to go to." And goes, "But I feel for the guys who had no options, even though they're good players and good students. That's how competitive it is." So, all right, let's bring in Cameron Salerno and talk about this. How you doing, sir? And you went to Rockland. You saw those guys sign. Describe the scene. Were people excited? Why is it a big deal? Because it's hard to sign them. That's for a community like that. That means something for those kids, doesn't it? In that school.
First off, let's talk about how Bobby Pylan's gonna have to shave his head when he gets to the service
exactly
academy.
Right.
That was pretty interesting. In the meantime, when you were talking, I was scheduling my haircut appointment because my hair is getting pretty bad right now.
Yeah, you need a suit. But no, so Bobby's going to Air Force and to play line, and there he is. And then Nathan Kent is going to Navy. So it's not just how long is their military commitments after their playing days?
It's 5 years for both of them. And I know Nathan told me he wants to make a career out of it. I know he's been really involved ever since he was in middle school with service academies. And same with Bobby. He said he had a lot of family who served in the service. So it means a lot to him. So yeah, really cool scene. I know 4 guys signed, and then obviously a volleyball player as well. Elias Mulligan was one of them. And I know some people asked me, like, why was in the story there was only 3 people signed? Well, Elias wanted to be there and support his teammates. So he did kind of a, like, not a fake signing, but something like that. I mean, he already
he wanted to be there in the moment, and he's going to Sacramento State. He's the Sierra Foothill League MVP, wide receiver, DB, special teams. He's going to play DB. So kudos to him for being there. So Rockland with 4 guys signing leads the whole area. That's just hard to do. And an example of how hard it is to do is Folsom, our number 1 team, the only team that played in the state finals from this immediate region, had nobody sign yesterday. Doesn't mean the Bulldogs don't know how to play. Doesn't mean they don't have players. Their 2 best players are junior national recruits. Walker Lyons tight end, Rico Flores junior receiver. They could be signing a year from now with an Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. That's how elite those guys are. But when Tyler Tremaine doesn't sign yesterday, he's our B player of the year, the gritty quarterback. Doesn't mean he's not talented. Doesn't mean he's of good standing. It's just it's that competitive. It's that hard. Kenny Leith of Rockland, their 6'5" quarterback, 4.0 student, didn't sign. That's how competitive it is. And yesterday, Cameron, as you know, was the first day people could sign. It's not the only day they could sign.
Well, it was actually in December, the first day people can sign. A lot of people signed
right. The early signing
period. And I was trying to pull up a tweet I had from a few years ago. So if you want to keep talking about it, I was trying to find, I made a tweet like showing the trends of the last decade in California, how our area has seen 4- and 5-star recruits. And it's kind of declined over the last few years. I think the peak was 2011, I want to say, or 2012, where there's, I think, 10 4-star recruits or something like that number. So pretty crazy to see how it's kind of gone that way. It's not obviously, like you said, it's not that Sacramento has less talent. It's hard to get recruited in
it sure is. And the transfer portal, I stopped by Sacramento State yesterday and was looking at some of the transfer portal numbers. There's just an army of people, and they don't all land. And so they're getting recruited. They've already been vetted. They've already got college film. So that's interesting. Evan Tattersall was an all-metro linebacker at Granite Bay, went to Cal on a scholarship, started some games at linebacker. He's in the transfer portal, and he just signed with UC Davis is a graduate guy, so he'll likely start. So there's an example there. Andre Crump, all-metro receiver at Monterey Trail, goes to San Jose State, plays in 16 games, but transfers this week to UC Davis. And so there's, Cameron, we know that the colleges prefer to build their programs with 4-year players, incoming freshmen, but sometimes these transfer portal guys are too good to pass up. Sac State only signed 2 guys yesterday, had a great December signing period, but they could sign as many as 4, 5, or 6 guys off the transfer portal. So they're constantly picking over that. And you mentioned 4 stars, 5 stars. The stars are kind of ambiguous. I remember when Eric Armstead, now with the 49ers, team captain, starting defensive lineman, when he was at Pleasant Grove and Elk Grove Unified, he was an offensive lineman prospect, but he made it known that he wanted to play defense. And so it's one of these recruiting services had him as a 5-star. And then when he committed to Oregon to play on the defensive line, he was dropped to 4 stars, which is petty and stupid, but that's where some of the star rankings are.
Yeah, I couldn't find the tweet, but I think this is the first time in at least a few years that Sacramento hasn't had a 4-star recruit in this recruiting cycle. And I know obviously stars don't mean a lot, but it is showing how kind of the impact of COVID-19 with people not being able to play games and people not being able to go to showcases the last 2 years. Obviously, it was a lot different during the summer where kids actually got to go out and go on recruiting visits and go to recruiting camps that were hosted by colleges, but you can definitely see the impact of COVID play on and how it's impacted the class.
That's so true. And we're not football experts by any measure, but I would think that Bobby Pylan played like a 4 or 5-star recruit, and so did Anthony Garcia. So those are subjective numbers, but anyways, all right. So we're going to talk some basketball the rest of the way here. Check us out on sacb.com and on our social media for more stories, insight on letter of intent. Cameron and I comboed on a story and kind of big picture and why it's so hard to do, what it means, where they're going, and all that kind of stuff. Let's talk girls basketball, Cameron. Let's jump up, throw up our rankings here. We're going to go in inverse order. We do this every week to just kind of break things down. Pick a team and talk about a team, Cameron. Who's interesting in this lot?
I think Antelope has made pretty much the biggest rise out of any team. I mean, they started off the year in the top 10, and they really kind of struggled at the start of the season. Then they got Mary Carter back, who was a transfer from Rockland, and I think they've won, I want to say it was 9 games in a row or 10 games in a row, something along those lines. So they've had a really good season thus far. I'm gonna go check them out tomorrow night. They play Intercom. Most of the rankings honestly didn't change much from last week. It was kind of mostly the same. If you go to our top 10, it's pretty incredible that all the teams, they really haven't lost a lot of games. And if they lose a game, it's to a team that is ranked higher than them or ranked near them. I mean, Folsom's 20-1, Oak Ridge is 16-5, Darrow's 18-4. And like their only losses the last probably 2 or 3 weeks have been to each other. I mean, Oak Ridge beat El Oro. McClatchy's going to play Laguna Creek. I think it's this week. So some really good games for sure.
No, that's excellent. Folsom's only loss was the Midi of San Jose, a national superpower. There's no slouch there. Folsom, Oak Ridge, Del Oro are all of the Sierra Foothill League. McClatchy, Laguna Creek are in the Metro League. That's been some good games. I think McClatchy dumped Laguna pretty good in their first meeting after McClatchy had some delays with COVID. Great coaches, great programs. Ray Young is certainly worth a watch for Laguna Creek. Vista Del Lago has a scoring marvel who just set some records, I think, Cameron. Is that what's the update there?
Yeah, she's the all-time leading scorer in program history. And on the topic of scoring, going back to Laguna Creek, Yun and Zoe Tillery combined, and they had combined for 82 points. They both had 41 points each in a win against River Valley, or not River Valley, River City. Too many River schools in the area. They've both had a huge performance.
Excellent. And then Vista Del Lago score that we're talking about is Kiera Sadler, who's done some great work there. And then Vanden is down there in the Monticello Umpire League. Has been a good program and all that. So outstanding. All right. So we're going to throw up another cool little graphic. We talked about scorers and rebounders, and from our friends at Max Preps, these are inputted by the coaches or the stat keepers. So if you're out there dogging it on inputting, then get off of that. All right. So top shot blockers in the Sac-Joaquin section. or in the region. That's why we have Sutter in there. Mary Carter, we've talked about her. She's an impact player. Katie Leith. It's good to see players from Valley and Del Campo. Hey, you gotta protect the rim, so it's nice to see people blocking shots there. I wonder if Katie. Well, no, it's not. It's the wrong spelling. But I see Katie Leith, and I was wondering if she was somehow related to Kenny, maybe a distant cousin. One spells the name differently. I don't know.
Yeah. It's different spelling. But on the note of Mary Carr, I think she's. I know she only has played half the season technically because she missed the first half because of having to transfer. But she's definitely a player of the year candidate. She's played really well in her starts. I think she's averaging like 24, 14, and 4, which is incredible. So she's a really good player.
What's her height?
I think she's 6'3". She's kind of a guard / forward. So she does a little bit of everything.
At that size. See, when people wonder, well, how do you get recruited? Well, if you're that size and that skill, that's how you get recruited. Jemiah Harrell was not nearly as big, 5'9", 5'10", 4-year starter at guard for Antelope, goes to Stanford, the national champions, the mega power. Well, when you're that gifted and that skilled and you're an off the chart scholar, then you get those possibilities. So there you go. All right, let's take a look at the boys basketball top 20 inverse order. So I might check out El Camino against Sacramento tomorrow. I'm still debating. I'm also thinking about Folsom and Whitney. El Camino and Sac High are in the Capital Athletic League, which also includes Rio Americano, Vista del Lago. It's a terrific league. And it also includes Capital Christian, which had a big win against Sac High this week. Liberty Ranch with Cody Smith, who's a scoring, rebounding 6'5" interior player, has played well. Jesuit is coming on strong. Just beat Cosumnes Oaks, which beat them a couple of weeks ago. So Jesuit's kicked it back into gear. We see Oakmont, Lincoln, and Placer in the same Foothill Valley League as Ponderosa. Let's take a look at the top part of the rankings here. Ponderosa is now 23-0. Cameron, how about that? That's the best. They're the only team in California, 1,300 high schools, the only boys basketball team that's unbeaten any division.
That's crazy.
Ponderosa Bruins. How about there? And looking to do some damage in the Sac-Joaquin Section Division II playoffs. The defending champion at Division II is Grant. Elk Grove will also be in Division II. Folsom leads the Sierra Foothill League. I ran something in the B this week. Mike Walls, our great coach. Bryson Shackelford is a 6'5" interior player. Intercom is number 1. Intercom, best team in school history. School opened in the Thomas Unified back in 2003 or 4. Intercom was supposed to play, Cameron. They were supposed to play at Modesto B, number 1, and NorCal, number 2, Modesto Christian on Sunday. The game is now off. Well, why was it on Sunday in the first place? Well, there's some confusion there. The CIF announced with all these COVID concerns and testing and delays and cancellations and postponements that if you need to use a Sunday to squeeze in a game that got postponed or canceled, then you can do it. That game was initially approved. The game was not a postponement or a cancellation. So now they're going to try to play it another day. The reason there's a ban on Sunday practices and games outside of COVID is because these coaches would play every day. They'd practice every day. Sunday gives a mandatory day off. Intercom and Modesto Christian probably be the top 2 seeds in the Section Division I playoffs, but they're going to try to squeeze in a game before the playoffs, and let's bring it on. Let's go see what they've got. And Derek Claxton is a star player for Intercom, a 6'6" guard. Cameron, you'll see him in the playoffs. He can do a little bit of everything. So if you're a team, you got to have a leader, and that's their guy.
Yeah, and pivoting back to our earlier ranking with Jesuit, I would just want to read off Andrei Stojakovic's stats the last few games. 25 points, 42 points, 25 points, 43 points. And that was the 43 was against Cosumnes Oaks the last game. So he's been on a tear lately.
He sure has. And I saw him, was it last Friday or the Friday before against Sheldon? And he's got all the skills, 6'7" junior. Yes, he's the son of Peja Stojakovic, the Kings all-time outside scoring threat. And Andre is he's got skills. He can handle the ball. He could dribble. He could pass. He could play in the high post. He could dunk. He could hit 3-pointers. So if he gets going, that's going to be a tough out for somebody in the Division I playoffs.
Yeah, and going back to Jesuit last season, it's kind of a shame that there wasn't a full season what that team could have done, because they had Issa Silva, they had Chris Hawley, they had Andre Stojakovic. They had a loaded team. I think they went
And they were,
16-0 or 17-0.
and
And
they
so
did
it
not go to
shows
the
that
playoffs.
it
Right.
just shows when you have a special team, you like have to take your advantage of your opportunities. And obviously they didn't even get an opportunity. And we're seeing with Ponderosa, they're 22-0, or right now are 23-0. And
Right.
so now they have the opportunity to prove they're the best team in
No,
their
it's
division.
really cool. And somebody might say, well, why is Ponderosa number 2 and not number 1? Well, Intercom has no local losses. Of course, Ponderosa has no losses. Intercom's also won 16 in a row, 17, 18 in a row. I got to look it up, but they started up ranked higher, and we're not going to drop them just because it's these aren't standings, we'll see. And even if Intercom were to play Modesto Christian and lose, doesn't mean we drop them. Drop teams that play out of area heavyweights. And Ponderosa's got a terrific team and a good coach, and an anchor. And this anchor, Aaron Bliss. Let's take a look at our shot block leaders. Aaron Bliss leads the section with 5.1 block shots. We talked about him last week. 6'10", big man for the Bruins. Stanford's looking at him. Just a terrific player. Mason Jones, Leo Wagner, Dejan Lott, who's got the best nickname anywhere. He's goes by Money. He's a 4-year player, a center. Cody Smith of Liberty Ranch. We got a typo in there in Liberty Ranch, but we're all human. That's why we don't type with our elbows. But so pretty good list there. We appreciate the coaches who update Max Preps. Right, Cameron? Max Preps is only good when people put stuff in, and there's too many coaches in football, basketball, baseball, softball who won't update it because they figure it's nobody's business, or we're just trying to hide tendencies. But you could darn well bet they scout the opponents who are on Max Prep. So I don't know if coaches want to keep doing that. And we tweeted out before, getting ready for our all Metro teams, we will not consider anybody unless they're on Max Preps.
Yeah.
Let's everybody get involved. When the area's top ranked teams or the state ranked top ranked teams can do Max Preps, then everybody should. If De La Salle football, Folsom football, Mater Dei football do Max Preps, then everybody should. It's that simple.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of want to pivot a little bit. I just want to give a quick shout out to Jake Browning, Jonah Williams, and Trayvon Henderson, who's going to be representing Sacramento in Super Bowl 56 next week in LA. I know we kind of touched on it last week about who was going to be playing in these conference championship games, but those three will be representing Sacramento in the Super Bowl. So pretty cool to see those guys. I mean, I got to see Jonah Williams and Jake Browning both play in high school, so that was pretty cool for me.
Yeah, I got a story running this weekend on Jonah Williams, how dominant he was. I was talking to Sac State coaches yesterday, Cameron, Chris Richardson and Troy Taylor. They coached him at Folsom High, say that he's the most dominant high school kid they've ever been around. And I'm working on a list on the most dominant high school kids I've ever seen. And then we're going to extend it through college and NFL impact. And he's the top of our list, just something else. And he had one tweet in high school, and that was on signing day when he committed to Alabama. That's how humble he was. He had 3 goals at the University of Alabama. He wanted to become a starter. He wanted to become an All-American, and he wanted to graduate in 3 years. He did all of those things. Who puts that as a goal? With such a me first thing, he puts graduating, and then he gets drafted, I think 11th overall by the Bengals, first lineman drafted. Then he has a bad labrum shoulder, doesn't even play his rookie year, and he's been dominant ever since. So you're right. Kudos to them. They hadn't won a playoff game in more than 30 years until this season in the playoffs, I think, when they beat the Raiders. So there's going to be a lot of local people rooting. Jake Browning, national record for touchdowns in a single season for Folsom, or career 229. He's on the practice squad. Trayvon Henderson out of Grant in the secondary, played at University of Hawaii. He's been with the Bengals. So they're getting to come home, and they're going to have some tickets to hand out. So people are excited. Really cool.
Yeah, if they want to give me a Super Bowl ticket, feel free.
That's exactly right.
I think I got to go with the Bengals, man. I mean, just for the local angle, and Joey Burrow is easy guy to root for. So
they are. That's good stuff. So Cameron, good to see you. Thanks for all the hard work. Again, check us out every day on social media. Cameron's all over Instagram. Cameron Soleno Media. I've got a Joe Davidson Media. Those are both on Instagram. Cameron's easy to find on Twitter. I am as well. Send us photos of a wrestling section championship team or girls basketball achiever or boys basketball, and we'll put it on the Buzz. Hashtag us the Buzz. We're easy to reach. And Cameron, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to Jim Silva, David Craccio, the guys behind the scenes who make all this work with all the photos and the graphics. And check out previous shows on here as we try to break down what makes high school sports so fun and so unique. And we will keep it up because the demand is there. We appreciate everybody. We'll see you soon.